As a forewarning, this episode contains content about drug abuse, adult content, and cult-like activities, so viewer discretion is advised. Welcome back, everybody, to Dark Trails Episode 3. I'm Moni and Jennkies is back. No solo podcast this week. It was fun doing a solo podcast on my own on the St. Louis Jane Doe, so it's good to be back. This episode, we are deep diving into one of the most bizarre, heartbreaking, disturbing modern cult stories. The rise and fall of the Love Has Won cult, and the woman at the center of it all, Amy Carlson, known to her followers as Mother God.
This is a story about transformation, not the spiritual kind, as Amy promised, but the kind that fractures families, rewrites identities, and ends in tragedy. It's a story about the people who followed her, the mythology they built together, and the world they're still trying to keep alive today. To get started, we are talking about Amy Carlson as a person before she embodies the role of Mother God. So before she became Mother God, Amy Carlson was a woman from Kansas, a daughter, a sister, a mother of three. People who knew her back then describe her as warm, funny, grounded, nothing like the figure she would later become. Although I will say some Reddit users who claimed to know her in high school said she was always quite loud and narcissistic. Her family remembers the moment that everything changed, though. Amy walked out. Her oldest son was 5. He recalls coming home from school, his father sitting him down and telling him that his mother was gone. Her sister and mother remember her walking out of a birthday party and never coming back.
Amy later claimed the turning point happened in the year 2005. She said she had just quit her 15-year career to be a stay-at-home mom to 3 children. One day, while laying her newborn son down for a nap, she said Archangel Michael appeared over the crib and told her it's time. From that moment on, Amy believed she had a divine mission, and in 2006, she said visions told her she was the mother of all mothers, the embodiment of Gaia, and the feminine creator sorry, of the universe.
Over the next few years, her followers explained that her youngest son, Aiden, began providing her with information that confirmed everything mom had been receiving. He told her she was Spider Woman and that she would accomplish the impossible dream. And this is from their earlier websites. She believed she was the first experimental crystal child, meaning they could not program her or condition her. She had been awake all her life, but had to experience the human condition and go through the process of awakening. Her role was to create a pathway for the consciousness for the awakening of the planet. And that's from the 5D disclosure website. From the time she was a baby, mom had full consciousness and memory. From the time she was 2, she had full connection with her angels and was anchored into heaven consciousness. She continued receiving downloads about the ascension process, the Great Awakening, and her role within it. Then, during a meditation in 2007, the angels said to mom, "You can either save your own children, or you can save 8 billion children."
Yeah, just reading the receiving downloads about the Ascension Project sounds like she's just a robot getting all these
Right.
information. And to save your own children or save 8 billion children, what?
Right.
In this next segment, we'll be talking about her apparent past lives in the etheric team. Amy claimed she had lived countless past lives, Mother Teresa, Jesus, Marilyn Monroe, you name it. She said she had been every major spiritual figure in history. And she said she wasn't working alone. Her etheric team, as she called it, included Robin Williams, Donald Trump, and Marilyn Monroe. These weren't metaphors. To Amy, these were literal spirit guides. So how did this all start? How was a woman from Kansas go from a normal life to leading a global online cult? The formation of Love Has Won didn't happen overnight. It was a slow build, a layering of beliefs, followers, and mythology. And Jennkies, you dug up deep in part and went down a total rabbit hole while we're doing this research.
Right. Yes. And what is striking about Love Has Won is it didn't really begin as a full blown cult. It began as a chat room in a digital space. A handful of people online talking about ascension, energy healing, and 5D consciousness. Amy wasn't Mother God yet. She was just another voice in the New Age forums, but she was charismatic, confident, and she spoke with absolute certainty. And that certainty is what pulled people in. In those early days, Amy was spending hours online, sometimes 12, 14, even 16 hours a day, talking to strangers about spirituality. And the more she talked, the more her identity shifted. She started saying she had visions, she had past lives, that she was remembering who she truly was. And people believed her
12 hours is. I can do 12 hours streaming, but 14, 16 hours,
every
that would be
day.
every day.
Right.
Like, how would you not lose your mind?
I know. And this was supposedly when she had her children, and,
Yeah. Like,
you know, so,
don't you have children to like take care of? Like, do that
right.
first. And that's when the mythology started to form, right?
Exactly. Amy began claiming she was the reincarnation of people like Mother Teresa, Jesus, Cleopatra, and Marilyn Monroe, and basically every major spiritual and historical figure, as you had said. And instead of pushing back, the people around her encouraged it. They told her she felt like a divine being, and they told her that she had a higher vibration. It became a feedback loop. By 2014, Amy wasn't just participating in online spiritual groups, she was leading them. She started calling herself Mother of all creation, and the people around her accepted it. They started calling her mom. They started asking her for guidance, for healing, and for answers. And Amy loved it.
This is also when the first core followers started showing up, right?
Right. People like Aurora, Hope, Ryan, and Miguel, also known as Archangel Michael, found her through these online spaces. They were searching for purpose and community, for something bigger than themselves, and Amy offered all of that. She told them they were part of the cosmic mission, that they were chosen, that they were the 144,000 souls destined to help humanity ascend. And once you believe you're chosen, it's pretty hard to walk away from that. The group officially became Love as One when Amy and her early followers started live streaming. At first, it was just spiritual talk, energy updates, cosmic weather, messages from the etheric team, but over time the tone shifted. Amy became more controlling, more demanding, more convinced of her own divinity. And her followers reinforced it. They told her she was right, that she was God, and that the world needed her.
And that's when the structure of a cult really took shape. Dun dun dun. Dramatic music.
Dun, dun, dun. Exactly. The live streams became daily rituals. The language became coded. Words such as 5D, ego death, the mission, the cabal. The followers began isolating themselves from their families. They moved across the country to be near Amy. They gave their money, their time, their loyalty, and Amy kept escalating the mythology. She said she created the universe. She was here to save humanity, and that humanity ultimately was killing her. By the time Love Has Won reached its peak, it wasn't a chat room anymore. It wasn't a spiritual community. It was a fully formed belief system with a divine leader, a hierarchy, a mission, and a prophecy. And it all started with a woman who walked out of her life and found people willing to build her a new one.
Now we'll be talking more about her inner circle, her main early followers, because there was like a bajillion people in that house came in and out during these live streams that we saw in the documentary. The first one that comes up is Amerith White Eagle. He was known as the devoted messenger. Amerith Eagle came from a background steeped in New Age spirituality. I'm sorry, I can't talk. They met in the mid 2000s on the light workers. Oh wow, I totally spelled that wrong. Light workers? Okay, lightworkers.org forum. He became Amy's voice, explaining teachings, defending her divinity, and reframing her suffering.
And then another early follower was Andrew, and Andrew's life was quite successful coming in, according to typical standards. He had a job making decent money. He claims he had made his father proud, all of the things that we think of as success. yet he says he didn't feel happy. He described that he had experiences with both drugs and sobriety that led him looking for more answers. He found that in content on their websites, stimulating conversation on the live streams, the articles, and the chat room. He was drawn in by the like minded people and conversations around spiritual matters. Um, he reports that conspiracy theories are likely what brought him in more and what makes people stay. Um, the articles written by the first ground team and the chat room members had answers to all of life's questions. Why wasn't he happy? Um, and it was because the ultimate they, had stole our happiness with conditioning and unawareness. We were all programmed with microchips that needed to be removed with um, ethereal surgeries. And something that stood out with Andrew is that although he was immersed in the culture um, and the ideology and came to the cult for much of a similar reason that the other people did, he ultimately didn't um, fully succumb to this cult belief. So he tried to go along, believing that Amy um, was more spiritually. God, I am like going off here. Um,
It's okay.
he reports. Okay, I already said that. Something that stands out with Andrew is that while he was immersed in the culture and ideology, and he came there for a similar reason that many other followers did, he never fell fully into the snares of the brainwashing and belief system. He admits he believed at first that Amy had more spiritual knowledge than him as a leader of a religious movement, so he tried to believe and follow her. He tried to believe that he was, as Amy named him, the father to her mother god, that he was meant to be a vessel for humankind, as she claimed. But he said none of it ever set quite right with him. He said there were times Amy would also question her role and title as mother privately. And a little known piece of information that Andrew offers in some of his stories is that Amy left the operation for about 2 months to go with Andrew when he decided to leave. And then she returned after their breakup.
I had to Google search this, what epidural surgeries are to people who may not know
Yeah.
what that is. It commonly refers to the use of highly tranquil, Zen-inspired, minimalist design concepts found in luxury plastic surgery clinics to ease patient and anxiety. So, yeah, that's a new word of the day, everybody, because I had no idea what that was.
Yeah.
Um, Now we're talking about the next father god, Jason Castillo, who was quite a character throughout the whole documentary. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what?" while watching his interviews. He also came from a turbulent past, addiction, instability, chaos. Inside the group, he became Father God, Amy's divine masculine counterpart. His vol- volatility shaped the group's tone. Reddit users watching live streams said they were afraid for people's safety when he appeared. And that's true because he would get very drunk, get very angry, scared probably scared the other followers within there. And that elevation definitely changed everything. Once he became Father God, Jason acted like he had authority over the group. He wasn't just a partner, he was an enforcer, and his volatility, is that how you say that?
Yeah.
About okay. When he was angry, the whole house tightened. When he was drinking, the live streams became very unpredictable. There are moments in the documentary where you can feel the fear in the room. Yeah, I totally did.
Yeah.
And the followers definitely sat stiff. They avoid eye contact. They speak softly. They watch him before they speak, like they're waiting for permission. And that's what chilling is how Amy framed his behavior. She said he was processing the pain of humanity. His rage was divine, and his outbursts were part of the mission. So instead of seeing abuse, the followers saw prophecy.
There's a moment in the live streams where Jason is screaming and slurring and pounding his fist, and the followers are nodding, smiling, and saying, "Thank you, Father God." It's one of the clearest examples of how deeply the group's reality had been rewritten. They described that this was a fight that needed to be won, as father embodied the lowest form of the masculine.
And then there's the dynamic between Jason and Amy. As Amy's health declined, as she grew weaker, thinner, more disoriented, Jason grew more dominant. He controlled access to her, controlled the tone of the room, and also controlled the narrative of what was happening to her body. There's a sense that he was both protecting her mythology and feeding off the power it gave him.
And when Amy died, Jason didn't step into a leadership role. He didn't try to take over the group. He didn't claim the throne. At least at first, he disappeared.
And next is the backbone of the whole operations. Miguel Lamboy, also known as Archangel Michael, later on in the group. Um, he came from a grounded, structured life, wondering why he would come to this cult. No idea. He handled the finances, housing, logistics, definitely the backbone of the group. But when Amy died, Miguel was the one who finally reported it and took all the money out of the bank, which totaled about $300,000. He forced the mythology into reality, and he hasn't been in contact with any of the followers since. So he just disappeared off the grid.
Yep.
Also, next is Archaea Faith. Her real name is Abigail Lowe's. Is one of the most striking transformations inside Love Has Won. Before the group, um, people knew her described someone completely different, socially conscious, politically active, vegan, grounded. But after a traumatic period in her life, she found the group online, and the shift was immediate and dramatic.
Inside Love is One, she became Archaea Faith, a divine feminine archetype in Amy's cosmology. And she wasn't just a follower, she was one of the group's most vocal defenders. In live streams, she explained Amy's suffering as cosmic warfare, claiming dark forces were attacking Amy's body. She repeated stories about Amy's childhood memories or miracles, even though Amy's family denied them. Faith also wrote many of the early manifestos and revelations on their website, which are available as snapshots still on the Wayback Machine archives.
One of the most memorable moments in the documentary is Faith describing Amy's vomiting, shaking, and diarrhea as signs of the spiritual battle, not a medical crisis. She framed everything through the lens of devotion, and even after Amy's death, our Archaea Faith didn't walk away. She still lives in Colorado to this day and works as a healer, quote unquote healer, and continues to believe Amy ascended rather than died.
Her story definitely shows how deeply someone can be reshaped by belief, how a person with a completely different identity can be pulled into a mythology so fully abandon everything else. Then there's Ryan Kramer, who was also known as El Moira, was searching for belonging, and he found it in Amy. He became a steady live stream presence, repeating her teachings with calm conviction. He helped normalize the group's worldview for newcomers.
Then there's Hope and Aurora, who are also known as the daughters of Mother God. Hope and Aurora weren't Amy's biological children, but they acted as her emotional caretakers and took on the titles of daughter of mother. Hope Hope would take notes during Amy's decline. These detailed notes include from when she sneezed to spiritual guidance and how much of the silver she was taking, which we'll get into later on of what the silver was and why she was ingesting it. They ran live streams, managed online content, and reinforced Amy's identity as Divine Mother. They do appear a lot in these live streams in the documentaries, so you can definitely see that they were definitely in there a lot.
Right. And something interesting about Aurora is similar to Andrew. She claims that she came from a very successful life. She describes growing up in wealth and privilege. She said after an economic decline, at some point, she looked around and realized everything is temporary. And I'm presuming realizing that she was not satisfied with mainstream answers about things such as social programming and happiness, she went searching for more.
And then there's Mother Mary, the caretaker, who carried the mythology. She was not she was not Amy's biological mother, but a follower assigned a divine feminine role in the group's hierarchy. Before joining, she came from a life marked by loss and longing, and she was someone who had spent years searching for connection, purpose, for a place where she mattered. And Amy gave her that. Then it turned into a spiritual assignment. Inside the group, Mother Mary was also one of Amy's caretakers. She managed Amy's physical needs, comforted her during her decline, and reinforced that the narrative that Amy's suffering was part of her divine mission. That is mentioned a lot in the documentary. She wasn't allowed to question. She wasn't allowed to express her fear or doubts. Her identity was tied to being the perfect, loving, spiritual mother, even as the situation around her grew darker and more dangerous.
And she wasn't just a caretaker, she was also a myth keeper. She helped maintain the story that Amy was absorbing humanity's pain, that her decline was cosmic, sacrifice, that every symptom was a sign of ascension. Mother Mary was one of the people who made the mythology feel real to the others.
Uh, then there was Buddha, another follower assigned with a divine masculine identity. He came from a background of searching, drifted between spiritual communities, looking for meaning. When he found Amy, he found a role that made him feel chosen. Inside Love has the Love Has Won cult, Buddha became the group's emotional stabilizer. When tensions rose, when Amy lashed out, when followers questioned the mission, Buddha was the one who soothed, reframed, and calmed the room. He was expected to embody wisdom, serenity, and balance when the environment around him was anything but peaceful.
But that role came with pressure. He wasn't allowed to break, he wasn't allowed to show doubt. He had to be the calm center of a storm that was constantly spinning out of control, and that made him both valuable and trapped.
And why these roles matter, Mother Mary and Buddha weren't just symbolic titles, they were structural pillars. Mother Mary kept Amy cared for physically and emotionally. Buddha kept the group calm spiritually and physi- physiologically. Words. Together, they helped maintain the illusion that Amy was divine, that the mission was real, and the suffering had purpose.
And without people like them, the mythology wouldn't have held together as long as it did. Um, Now we are going to look a bit more into the days of live streaming and what was going on then. Um, the live streams are some of the most disturbing footage in the documentary. You see Amy suffering, frail, gray, barely able to move, and you see her inflicting suffering, yelling, demanding, and lashing out. In a short documentary that I had found on YouTube, some of the other footage that is not included in the newer documentary shows Amy abusing a young cat by twisting its front limbs and scruffing it while screaming in its face. You regularly see and hear Amy screaming and yelling at her followers, both her online followers for not caring and causing her suffering, as well as those who were physically around her doing some of the caretaking.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that one Netflix documentary. Don't don't fuck up with cats. Don't fuck with cats. I think it is. That.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, that's another that's another crazy one. Um, another story, another podcast, another podcast episode. Um, followers insisted she was absorbing humanity's um pain, but at the same time, she was chugging this collateral silver, turning grayish blue, and her body withering. Oppenheimer dismissed the discoloration as a bogus claim. Meanwhile, the group continued making colloidal silver in house and selling it online. Now, this group moved to a lot of places from Oregon, Hawaii to California, and back to Colorado as the final place. Um, and as Amy's health declined, the group moved constantly Oregon, then Hawaii, as I said. Even while they were in Hawaii, the Hawaiian locals were not happy that Amy was claiming to be a Hawaiian deity. They fled back to California, then to Colorado, where only Jason remained with her. They stayed in a house owned by Archangel Michael, and that house would become the center of the investigation.
So Amy died on April 16th of 2021, but her body wasn't actually discovered until April 28th. In the documentary, footage is even shown where the group of followers are conducting experiments on the body, such as EMF readings, claiming the energetic charge was from her spirituality and divinity, that she was possibly coming back to life as Christ did, not really taking into consideration what the colloidal silver had done to her body and why those EMF readings would probably be very high on her.
And when the police entered the home, they found her mummified remains wrapped in Christmas lights, set up like a shrine, glitter makeup around her eyes. The local sheriff said the SUV on the property had its back seat folded down, consistent with transporting a body. There are also two children in the home at the time of the discovery, a 13-year-old and a 2-year-old boy. They were supposedly sleeping at the time of the discovery and rest. I presume they had been alert in the home for some reason amount of time while the body was handled.
None of the followers or individuals involved with the remains were actually charged with anything. They were arrested. However, my understanding is that the only charges that remained were the charges brought against two people for child neglect. But the other charges were dropped with the assumption that the brainwashing and some of that insanity had occurred with that. Um, so after Amy's death, the group didn't fracture, it kept operating. And one of the biggest turning points in the aftermath came from a place you wouldn't expect, the United States Food and Drug Administration.
Yeah, this part is important because it shows how far the group's influence reached and how dangerous their claims had become. In February of 2022, the FDA issued a formal warning letter to two of the most visible Love Has Won members, Lauren Suarez and Ashley Peluso, who was Aurora and the other
Hope.
Hope. There we go. Yeah. Oh yeah, better known as Hope and Aurora. Can't read the script. Forgot to put that in. And this wasn't a slap on the wrist to them. They didn't care. This was the federal government saying you are selling unimproved, unsafe medical products and you're marketing them to children. The letter specifically called out the products that they were selling online: the plasma colloidal silver eye drops, Gaia's organic nasal spray, plasma copper elixir, plasma gold and silver packages, plasma silver elixir. These were the same substances that Amy had been drinking on live stream, the same that turned her skin grayish blue, the same silver that contributed to her physical decline. And Hope and Aurora weren't just selling them, they were claiming these products could heal, protect, cleanse, and treat medical conditions. Crazy to think that. No. I'm glad the
Right.
FDA got on the um the FDA also called their claims especially concerning because the products were safe for children, safe for the eyes, nose, ingestion. None of that was true. Colloidal silver can cause permanent skin discoloration, organ damage, and neurological issues. And the FDA made it clear these products were unapproved, drugs being sold illegally with false medical claims. And this is where you see the shift. The group moved from selling products to teach followers how to manufacture themselves. It's the same belief system, the same pseudoscience, the same dangerous practices, just repackaged to avoid a federal oversight. And this letter wasn't just a warning, it was a snapshot of the movement that had crossed the line from spiritual claims into medical misinformation, from belief into harm. And with that warning, the core filers didn't walk away. They adapted, reorganized, kept the mission alive, etc., etc. Because for them, Amy wasn't gone. She had ascended, and the work in their eyes wasn't finished. Now we'll move on to the segment of where everybody is now. So Jinkies, you can take that away.
Sure. So we have talked about the rise of Love is One, the mythology, the live streams, and the tragedy of Amy's death. But the documentary leaves us with one final question. What happened to the followers after Amy's death? Where did they go? What are they doing now?
And the answer is they didn't disappear. They didn't dissolve back into their old lives. Most of them are still out there, active, organized, and continuing the mission in new forms. The cult didn't end when Amy died. It just changed shape.
So Aurora is still one of the most visible faces of the movement. In the documentary, you see her doubling down, not questioning, not distancing herself, but reframing everything as part of a divine plan. Today, she's running YouTube channels, Substack newsletters, and spiritual live streams where she teaches about moon cycles, cosmic energies, planetary alignments, and 5D consciousness. She has also published multiple books, including 5D Full Disclosure, The Whole Truth Heals. And I actually download and read some of this one on Kindle Unlimited, and it is very much the same sort of claims that Archaea Faith had listed on the website before about creation of Earth, Mother's story, um, the downloads of awareness that she received, the fall of other gods and other cosmic energies, I guess, and then how Mother was suffering for all of humanity. And then she also wrote a children's book that's also available on Kindle Unlimited. I did not download this one, um, but it's called What's Your Vibe? And it is a vibrational emotions guide for kids. And it sort of goes in line with their mission of bringing crystal schools for children to teach them um, about energies and about spirituality. And this is non accredited guides, non accredited schools, but they are published for teaching children about spirituality. So Aurora did not walk away. She just professionalized the brand.
Wow. Hope is also still um she's deeply involved too. She co-hosts Daily Disclosure, a live stream show that continues the same format the group used when Amy was alive. The tone is softer now, more polished. Um, the message hasn't changed. Ascension, plasma energy, the mission, the belief that Amy is still guiding them from the etheric realm. Hope is the strongest example of how belief can survive even after the leader's gone. Um, yeah, and there's also new groups with the 5D full disclosure and New Earth. The document clear the cult didn't die; it's splintered. Um, 5D full disclosure is the main successor. They no longer sell colloidal silver, not after the FDA warnings, but they teach followers how to make it at home. Oh, good lord. um, um, the stuff that we named before, like nano coated copper coils, caustic soda baths, plasma water, GAN sediment, energetic healing frequencies. They frame these as gifts for humanity offered by donation. Then the New Earth, transitioning government, a utopian society project with 10 core ideals centered on love, unity, and obedience to the truth. It's part it's part spiritual branding, part pseudo governance, and part recruitment tool. That's a
And I
mouthful.
will say that Buddha also makes pyramids that are supposed to be conductors for
Sorry,
the
Lexi. Sorry, you woke up. Sorry.
okay, I was gonna say Buddha is okay, hold on. No. I,
Sorry.
I was going to say that they accept donations for the little pyramids, I guess, that is supposed to help conduct this plasma water creation that I believe it said Buddha makes. So they've got
Mm,
like 100 some in existence in the world that is supposed to help with making the
interesting.
colloidals. Yeah.
As for the different live streamers, a handful of the original followers still appear in live streams still use the same coded, still talk about Amy as if she's actively communicating with them. They restructure the hierarchy, redistribute the roles, and rebrand the message, but the belief is still intact. Michael just disappeared after Amy's death. He's the one that originally, as we said before, reported Amy's death. So he walked away. He's no part of the new groups, not on the live streams, etc. Not selling plasma products.
Right.
um,
His name was on everything too, so he because Amy trusted him, so he kind of like just walked away with hundreds
yeah,
of thousands of dollars in properties and
right.
yeah. Um so next, Jason Castillo, Father God. Um so he was noticeably absent after the arrests and all of the um public discussion of the cult itself. After the arrests and the collapse of the original group, he faded from the public view. Um, his influence, his presence in the live streams, all of that was frozen in footage for many years. There is documentation of an arrest in Colorado in 2024 for disturbance of the peace, but otherwise, there's not a lot out there about him after. Um, but he did participate in the interview for the filming of the HBO documentary series. In that, it is said that he and John, or father of the metaverse, lived together in Colorado. But in the last year or so, he has made quite a reappearance. He still maintains um, an active website at Love Has Won Joy Reigns, which shows pictures of him and mother, other followers that weren't mentioned in the documentary. Um, and he advertises the Love Has Won documentary. He writes manifestos, claims of his and mother's past lives together, and assertion that he is mother father in one vessel now. Um, he even writes us all a letter on his website, and it's the first paragraph says, "Hello, children. It's your pops. It's been a long game. I think it's supposed to be a long time. 488.369 trillion years before leading to this final life. I have been a rock, obsidian. We are so proud of all of you. We must love ourselves completely, and I have stayed on Earth after Mother ascended in this life to make sure Mother's divine plan is brought through in the physical." He posts regularly on YouTube now, but his latest video was posted 2 months ago, in which he introduces himself as Mother, Father, God. He posted 4 months ago with a series of videos on workouts, and then I found a video a year ago on YouTube um, with him and Father Metaverse or John,
Mhm.
where they created a video together talking about themselves and their beliefs, basically claiming the same things that they knew who they were from birth and that they were father gods, I guess.
And then there's Archaea Faith. Abigail, her transformation inside Love Has Won was dramatic, but even more striking is where she ended up after Amy's death. According to the documentary and follow-up reporting, Abigail still lives in Colorado. Colorado. She didn't distance herself from group beliefs. She didn't renounce the mythology, and she didn't step back the way some members did. Instead, she continued on a spiritual path that mirrors the teachings she absorbed inside Love Has Won.
Right. The documentary also notes that she now works as a healer, offering spiritual services that echo the same language and framework the group used. She still talks about ascension, energy, work, and divine purpose.
And importantly, she still describes Amy's death not as a tragedy or medical crisis, but as a physical extension, ascension. That's the phrase that, and that's the phrase she uses. It shows how deeply the belief system is still embedded, how the narrative Amy built continues to shape the lives of the people who followed her. She's not active in the newer splinter groups like 5D full disclosure, but she hasn't rejected that ideology either. She's living on her own version of it quietly but consistently. Also, Abigail's story is a reminder that leaving a cult physically doesn't mean leaving it mentally. For some followers, the belief becomes identity, and after the leader's gone, the worldview stays. As for Buddha and Mother Mary, according to the documentary, they live and sell art together. I don't know where, but they're selling art. And Jenkins mentioned earlier about the what was it? What was
Oh, the pyramids, it's
pyramids? Yeah,
the colloidal conductor, basically, like, it's to help make the colloidals.
yeah. Um, in conclusion, the followers didn't scatter. They didn't renounce the teachings. They didn't wake up from the dream. They adapted, back, some step back, some step forward, but the movement in one form or another is still alive, apparently. Um, the story of Mother God isn't just a cult. Isn't just about a cult leader. It's about how a person can rewrite their entire identity, past, present, and future, and pull others that into that world with them.
And it's about the people who stayed, the ones who kept that mythology alive, and the ones who still believe.
A woman from Kansas became Cleopatra, Jesus, and the creator of the universe, and for her followers, that was enough.
This is the legacy of Love Has Won.
Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode 3 of Dark Trails, and thanks for everyone who has subscribed, follow the show. All that support means the world and helps us get better. And then we'll be back like in a couple weeks. I think we're doing the Long Island Sealer Trail with our friend Shannon, who's actually from Long Island and actually knows about the case and is so down to be in an episode with us. Hopefully, all the resources that we used in summary are listed in the episode notes. And I hope everybody has a wonderful time and a good day. Stay safe out there. Stay vigilant. We'll see you guys all
Thanks for
in the following
listening.
scene. Bye.